It's Friday, May 31st, 2024. Let's do our promotional segment. Promotional, I did it right. I did it correctly.
You've done it right the last few times. So.
Did I? I thought last time I did the. I thought I did chill and then I corrected. I thought.
No. Well, listen. Even if you correct it, correction is growing.
Okay. Well, in any event, I didn't stumble over the show part. So.
Are you doing the New York sound effects for the whole?
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it the whole show. But I'm actually. This is actually somewhat of a test for me. Because I'm layering sounds. So this is not one sound. These are multiples that I'm triggering in some cases.
Yeah.
So like the traffic with the jacket or the motorcycle, I added that, and then there's going to be a siren that I'm going to have to add.
Because it sounds like we're sitting like out at a bodega corner.
Well, that's the funny. I've always liked the idea of background ambient sound, even though it doesn't make any sense that we would be doing this like this because we're not doing it in a physical space.
No, it conjures a very strange image to me of where we would be.
Right, it's like we're sitting on the sidewalk in New York or some city.
You know what?
Matter.
Actually, what you should do is it should be like arguing at a French cafe, out in
Well, you know what? There is argument. What do you call it? There is argument ambient sounds. I didn't get them, but there are. There's also one from the Abyss that I could play that I found where it's like people screaming, like because remember. In the ending.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Is it like we're doing a podcast while there's like a major event going on in the background in the station?
Yeah, because
the station's going down and the two of us are just sitting talking about movies.
Pretty much.
That's
relatively. So the thing is, you remember that in the theatrical cut, they omitted the whole thing with the giant flood that got paused.
Yeah.
So in that thing, there's people panicking and there's like traffic sounds and there's all this stuff going on. And so all those...
So it's not a station. It's end of the world shit.
Yeah. So there's like flood sounds and there's a sound which, it's like people panicking in traffic. I don't remember. I grabbed it and put it somewhere. Yeah, it's great.
People panicking in traffic.
Yeah, because I have like all types of flood sounds and stuff like that. But I specifically did have... I think they're in here, right? Don't I have those? Yeah, here they are. Let's see. So for that one, I believe it's called like panicking traffic or something like that. Hold on. I mean, I have to look. I've been collecting clips so long now that I have to look. I think it's called.
Okay, so before you go any further, remember support our show.
Oh yes. If you'd like to support our show, the easiest way to do that is to go to supportourshow.com. And the only thing that isn't there is the OZONE code, which I do believe still gets you 2 months free on Libsyn if you'd like to try podcasting out for free for a few months. If somebody has tried and it doesn't work, please let me know because I don't want to be giving out a code and fooling people. Here, crowd panic. All right, here we go. Hold on a minute. Let me insert this right here, as Bob Barker would say. Let me turn this down so I don't blow your ears out. Okay, here we go. Let's see what this is.
That's appreciated.
Yeah, it might still be loud. There you go. Yeah. So now we're in a city where Godzilla's coming through.
The problem with this one is it doesn't feel as real.
It's not as organic, yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like a recording.
Yeah. All right, let's try this one. So here, let me get that one out of there. Oh, here's debris falls. So let's give you a little bit of sense of the destruction. Let's see. Let me hold on again. Let me turn this down so I don't kill you. Let me do this. This is actually turned down because of being in the background. So let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right.
It sounds like someone's running in a fire escape.
Okay. Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Oh no! What's going on? Oh geez! Oh no! There's something happening. Oh, what? Panic! Oh, whatever are we gonna do?
Godzilla! Yeah.
Oh no! Stuff's being broken. Help! Oh geez! Oh, it's a nightmare. Ah! Oh no! Oh no! Oh geez!
I'll settle for the quiet New York
Oh
landscape.
no! Oh, it's all coming apart now. It's the death and destruction. Oh no!
You're cultivating a Michael Bay film.
I really am. Man, you are not kidding. Oh no! Maybe somebody should call the National Guard.
Transformers.
Call the National Guard in. Can someone call the National Guard?
Asteroids and falling from the sky.
Oh jeez. There's probably gonna be ambulances on site soon.
Here comes Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Oh no.
Oh, the city sounds are about to fade out, so I have to put a different one in. So let's see. Oh, there's the chopper. Lift us out. Yeah, all right. Let's okay. Oh yeah, it's a panic. Yeah. There we go. I think. Okay. I think the danger has passed. I think we're okay now.
Now they're just arguing about it.
Yeah. So this is what you were talking about. Yeah. This one's a little bit more. Okay. All right. Got it. It's all clear. Go away. Thanks. Oh, you know why? I think this one, I'm going to fade this one out. That one's blending into the other one. Okay, there we go. Oh, the panic's still going on. I didn't realize the panic is still playing. Oh, no. That's terrible. Yeah.
Panic is continuous.
All right, let's. I bet you the panic is what you're hearing, so let's fade that out a little bit. And now we should go back to. All right. Now we're just in general New York City street activity, so a little bit more subtle. See that? Better. Yeah.
There needs to be an occasional "fuck you" in the background.
I know. Well, yeah, that's the problem.
Because that's the thing. It's usually like it's very quiet, and then it's punctuated by something. And then
oh, you know what? Wait! I've got it for you. No! I have it right here. Here we go. A little bit of Queens for you.
Yeah. I don't fight fair, bitch. I use weapons, hooker.
There you go. See that?
You just have to blend it in so it's like in the background.
Yeah, somewhere. I got it. Here, let me try this one, but fade
like it's
back
around
here.
the corner.
Here, see if this is better.
Oh, that's good. That's like real
see?
subtle.
Nice
it just took me a second, and I was like, "Oh, someone's having an argument."
Yeah, somebody's having an argument. Now here, this is a little bit more on the nose, but I'll try to keep it a little bit background too. Just general here.
I'd buy that for $1.
There you go.
That's
you requested.
Perfect.
You got it.
No,
See
that's pretty perfect. Yeah, so you have to layer those all in.
Yeah, push this one a little bit back here.
This isn't the first time I've been fucked in the producer's office.
Yeah, see, it really you are correct though, because it's all about pushing the volume down, so you have to strain to hear. Wait, what is he saying?
Yeah, because at first you hear the beginning of it, you're like, is someone talking? And then you realize what they're saying, and then it's like, oh yeah, because that's, but that is like the city. That is like being in a city where you're sitting there, and like I said, there's an ambience, and then you hear something that kind of surfaces, and you're like, well, did someone just say what I think they said? Like,
right?
Yeah. So. Oh man! Well,
so
you
didn't even hear that one. That I put that one too low. Which that's a great background. Hold on, let me push it up 5%.
Oh yeah, that was Pacino, right?
Yeah. See?
Yep,
so.
there you go. Yeah, I mean, I got headphones too, so like I can hear it. But I wonder if you'll pick it up on like the speaker set.
Probably not. So, stuff like that. Anyway. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let the city thing just go out on its own. It'll go out in the background, so we can just start talking. I won't do any more sweeteners in there.
Or more weird.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong, but my movie review this week doesn't have any sound clips because it just didn't make sense for it. So I got to get my audio thing in somewhere, and that's
your
what
fix.
This is. Yeah.
Well, so before the show, I was telling Joe about how the company that I get all my college courses from, they have these big fire sales now and then. So I kind of jump in and grab a few choice courses, and one of the courses I got, which I suggest anybody to buy this one, especially if it's on sale. Sure. I don't know if it's still on sale by the time this show comes out, but if it ever does, it's called How Digital Technology Shapes Us. And the professor's name is Indre Viscontas, PhD, right?
How digital technology shapes us?
Yeah.
And that's the great courses?
That's the great courses, yeah.
Okay. So make sure I'm going to link directly to it for people.
I will never buy these full price because it's just ridiculous. But I will always look if they're on sale because sometimes these things come down to like $30, and for me, like that's like buying a really good audiobook, especially when these things are like some of them are like 15, 20 hours long. Some are even longer than that. I've had ones that are like 32 hours long. So, but this particular course, How Digital Technology Shapes Us, at first I was bummed because I'm used to the courses being like 30, 40 minutes long, sometimes an hour. These are 25 minutes long. And I was like, why are these so short? And I realized it's because you get 25 minutes into this and you sit there and you go, holy shit, I got to think about that for a bit. And it's I'm about 6 or 7 in. But I wanted to bring it up because there was the 5th course is all about, it's not 5th. It's is it the 2nd or 3rd? And now I'm all screwed up. Either way, in one of the early courses, she talks about the difference between digital reading and hard copy reading, right? And the thing was, I never really thought there was a difference, but she gets heavily into this idea called deep reading. So deep reading is when you are reading a book and you can see it. You are in it. You're seeing the characters, right? Which is like typically when you're in what?
God, I just looked at the price. Wow.
Oh yeah. You got to get them on sale.
The full price is like $240 each. That's
of course. Wow. Yeah, that's why you have to get you have to wait for one of their ridiculous sales where you can get them for $30.
You know what? I kind of missed the background now.
Go ahead. You know what? I didn't mind the New York cityscape. Go ahead.
I'll bring the Chinatown back in. This is Chinatown.
There you go. I don't mind if you run it through the whole show. It's just kind of
I just put it. Oh wait, you know what? This is the thing where you can layer them so they transition. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's just like us walking down the street talking.
Yeah.
So she gets into something about deep reading, and deep reading is a thing that you do when you're really enjoying a book, where you're kind of getting into it, and you can visualize it, right? And it's being into it enough that you can move it around. So like I know with Joe, you read God's War, and I remember you changed one of the characters completely. You didn't even pay attention to the author.
I did.
But that was kind of your form of deep reading because it's partly what the author is providing you, but it's also partly what you're providing yourself, right? And deep reading makes it so that when someone just gives you an environment, you then build the space, right? But the thing is, it's a lot for your brain to handle. And so when she was talking about the difference between that and digital reading, I thought it was going to be something about the screen or something about that. Like, I thought this was going to be like, how like, reading on a Kindle is bad or some shit like that, right? Mm-hmm. And what I was surprised by was that it had nothing to do with that. The only part of digital reading that is bad is all the extras that they try to push on you. That if you can ignore them or shut them off, which is what I do, then you're okay. And what she means by that is that, like, with the Kindle, they've tried to make reading like a social experience where they're like, tell your friends what you're reading, tell them how far you've come. Do you want footnotes? Do you want the end notes? Do you want suggestions?
I assume, like me, you turn all that off.
I turn all that shit off,
so
right? And they also do that thing where they're like, hey, you've read so many times this week. Good job. And I'm like, okay.
Ooh, yeah. I have. Wow, that's great. I have all that off.
Yeah, and it's like, and you just sit there and go, listen, Amazon, I really need you to fuck off right now, right? So as long as you turn all that shit off, as long as you don't have any of that there, you can still achieve deep reading on digital technology while reading it on your, even on your phone to some extent, right? The whole idea is that you want as little between you and the material as possible. And the second you start throwing anything into the mix, it messes with your ability to deep read. So it's one of those things where, have you ever read a book and you're reading and you know what? Someone starts yelling, go fuck yourself right outside your house. And you realize that you've read a page, but you haven't actually caught on. You don't even know what you just read. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
That is basically a distraction breaking deep reading. Well, the problem is when you read and you have all these distractions on digital devices, right? That's when you lose track of what the hell you're reading. Especially with nonfiction, it's even worse. Where it's like, maybe they're saying that, this is a side thing, but it was loosely connected. There's a lot of kids who take notes now in school on computers. You were in a classroom more recently than I was. Was everybody taking notes on digital devices?
Yeah, well, okay. So the way that teacher ran it, yeah, you're right. I took a class 2 years ago to finish my degree, and in that class, there were days where the teacher specifically said no electronics because it was going to be discussion. But the rest of the time, yes, most people were using some type of digital device, most commonly a laptop. Actually, probably laptop, iPad, maybe 75 to 25%, that type of thing.
Electronic note-taking is terrible for you because you can type fast enough.
Now, I will say this is very funny.
Yeah.
The two people who I knew were not using them, I noted it because they were the teacher's pets of the... They were very, very wanted to demonstrate their, I'm willing to talk, teacher, and they were both using pen and paper.
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying
so the
that
thing
means
is,
anything. I'm just saying I
no.
observed
I'm
it.
just saying digital note-taking is apparently very bad for you because we're so good at typing that a lot of people, when they're taking notes on digital devices, they try to just write down everything the teacher says, right? Yeah. Whereas when you are using pen and paper or pencil paper, whatever, deep down that you cannot keep, you can't write everything down the teacher says. So you have to basically get better at summarizing the idea. So it actually causes you to do more work conceptualizing what the teacher's teaching you. And when you write it down, it gets deeper into your head than if you just digitally type down everything he's saying.
Can I tell you what's funny about you saying that?
Yeah.
Because I'm so bad at typing, it was the same as writing for me. Because I can't touch. I can't look and type. I have to kind of check I have to look at what I'm typing
and that's the thing is,
so
all these concepts.
But you're right.
Yeah, all these concepts though. There's always going to be an outliner.
And there was a point. I do remember at several points actually him saying, "You do not have to note every single thing I'm saying. Here are the important things about what I'm saying." And I think that's. I didn't really catch completely what that was, but I wonder if he was incorporating this type of idea, which is, okay, don't just verbatim take everything down. I want you to understand what's important. Listen to what I'm saying and understand the importance of the certain points. So, because he did say that. I remember him saying, you do not need to write everything down. It's because he was showing slides that had a lot of text as well. He said, you don't need to just copy all this. This is about this.
Yeah.
These are examples type of thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, So going back to the whole idea of deep reading, I just thought it was really interesting, this idea that you can achieve deep reading with digital technology. Just turn all the extra... It's the extra shit that screws you up. It's the extra shit that lights up your brain and makes you think about different things. And they were talking about how if someone gets a text, like if a teacher gets if a student gets a text in a classroom, right? The teacher has a right to be annoyed because the student basically gets the text. They have to read the text, which takes them out of the context of the class. They then have to come up with a response and type it, and then have to get back into the stream of whatever's going on. It's the same with reading. Like have you ever been trying to like get through a chapter and you're just getting like bombarded by text, or just shit just gets coming up and you just keep getting interrupted, and it's kind of like. Yeah, like that happens with books, but it happens even more with technology, especially if you don't turn off all these extra unnecessary features.
And I was going to say that's one of the reasons, because at first with the Kindle, it would probably say, do you want to underline this word? Oh, do you want... I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to read, man. I don't need this.
Yeah. Like, Amazon, I need you to fuck off right now.
Literally, my Kindle is in airplane mode also 99% of the time.
Most of the time.
I take it off if I need to buy a book, and then it immediately goes back on. That's it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up, and what do you call it? If you are interested in the course, which I do think that anybody should listen to because it is fascinating, because she gets very much into the histories. She doesn't just tell you the idea; she gets into the histories of the companies and why they're using it. So recently, I just listened to one about the history of Netflix and how their algorithm for basically suggesting movies to you. And how it is very, very good sometimes, but it also has a hard time because it's not human. Oh man, I read a great quote the other day too, where they said, I never used to believe in the soul until I started seeing art done without a soul. Thank you, AI, for teaching me that the soul matters. Yeah. But now, to stay with literature but change course, I don't usually
I need to get like a masterpiece theater music to play when you do something like that, where it's like, like an intro thing. See, this is all the fun of this. Oh, by the way, hold on. Did I get this is one of the best sound effects. Where is it? Do I have it? You'll know this. I mean, anybody who's of a certain age will recognize this, but oh no, is it not on here? Never mind it. I have to find it. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, you got me all excited.
Well, I'll try to deploy it properly. Oh, I still have the Nomads thing in here.
So I don't normally like to review a book halfway through.
Right.
And this isn't really a review. I just want to discuss it because it's so fucking weird. And I'm really starting to enjoy it, and I wanted to share it with you because it's so fucking weird. So I've talked about David Drake before. He's one of my favorite sort of action authors. He does a lot of like kind of pulp sci-fi. And there's a lot of books of his that are out of print. He did a lot of stuff with Bane, and a lot of Bane stuff is out of print now. But Bane, who is famous for their awful covers, they're the worst. And usually the worse the cover is, the more fun the book is going to be. Even though whoever drew the cover just didn't give a shit. So I read about this series. It's like 3 books that David Drake did called The Ranks of Bronze. And normally I avoid his fantasy novels because they're very slow to kind of get into it, even though once they get going, they're really fast. But I read the concept of this book, and I was like, okay, I'm curious now, which is basically a Roman legion gets abducted and is forced to fight throughout the galaxy. And I was like, okay, this is really bonkers. So I'm going to go with it. Like, I'm sold now. Like, let's see what kind of... I mean, because that's like some fucking bizarre B-movie that you'd watch, isn't it?
It does interest me on spec.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So I'm halfway through this book, and essentially what happens is and so like this is kind of spoilers for the first half of the book, but like I said, I haven't read the second half, so I can't tell you what happens, but I know that there's 3 books. So essentially a Roman legion is abducted. The whole force, the whole army is taken. So there's like thousands of them, and they are abducted, and they are abducted into a ship. And I think that like their memory of exactly how this happened is very weird. On some level, it sounds like they willingly boarded these ships thinking that they were essentially being bought to fight for something, but they didn't realize that what was really going on. And so the setup is essentially you have these aliens who are who have a trade guild, right? And there are planets that they want the resources from, but the trade guild rules basically say you are not allowed to use your advanced technology to destroy the indigenous creatures. You have to fight them at the same level of technology they are. And if you...
Uh-oh. Lando just vanished. We had this problem earlier where he suddenly went on mute. Uh-oh. I'm going to keep this going because with the ambience, it's not as weird. You dropped out. Like you're muted again. Typing this. Except he doesn't show the mute symbol this time, which is interesting. He just suddenly went dead. But we had a weird problem where earlier his mic just seemed to have muted itself. But I saw the mute symbol last time. Except now it does not show. Doesn't show. I'm just checking. Make sure. Yeah, I mean, because the soundboard's still playing. I don't know why he's suddenly gone. Huh. This is interesting. Yeah, no, he's still... I mean, we're still on the call. Of course, that could change. You see, here too, folks, is the benefit of having this lovely background ambience. Because now, as we wait, we can just, wait. And it's not as bad because it's not me. It's like I'm sitting here, talking on a street corner while you all listen to me. But I'm not. In fact, I'm just sitting here trying to... the interesting part is, why is he not responding to me either? Is he trying to figure out his issue? Wait, can you hear me? Let's see. Maybe he can't hear me. This could be a Skype issue. We've been waiting for one to happen. So, inevitably... Oh, okay, the call just dropped. Hold on, is the recording still running? Yes, the recording's still running. Good. Okay. I assume he's going to call me back in a minute. Okay, I'm going to wait. Did you end the call? Oh, okay, I'm going to say it. Good grief, that's loud. All right, we'll see. Wait, is my mic in the wrong mic now? Nope, mic's still good. Oh, wait, I heard a noise on your end. I heard something. Yeah, there you are. What happened?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, jeez. Yes, I can hear you.
There you are. No, there you are.
Oh, okay.
So what the fuck happened?
I don't know. My thing's been running the whole time. You just suddenly cut out.
My thing was running the whole time too. Apparently Skype decided to have a full meltdown with my speaker. My microphone decided to try to transfer itself across 3 different microphones in my system. So like,
that's why you never went to mute. Okay.
And then just kept going, and then I couldn't hear anything. All my audio cut out.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. No. Unlike the first problem, which I had explained to the folks listening, because I just been talking the whole time, is that I didn't see the mute icon, so I knew you didn't accidentally mute yourself again. But it's really weird. Huh.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Well, I guess
I've had some weird internet stuff going on lately with my phone.
I guess this is a good tip to everybody that.
Are you still recording?
Oh yeah, no, of course I'm still recording.
I'm not recording.
Oh god, record.
Oh wait, hold on. Did it start recording again?
Mine never dropped. Mine kept going even when you dropped out.
Mine says it's recording again.
Okay.
Should I trust that?
Wait. What does the recorder time say? Does it have a timestamp?
23:24.
So yours never stopped.
Oh, I guess
or did it stop for 2 minutes? Well, you know what? Don't worry about it, because as long as it's still going, maybe it paused and picked back up because it didn't get. That'd actually be really smart. So I don't know. Maybe.
So are we gonna trust it that it's still recording, or should I start a new recording?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
This is one of those. This is one of those tech moments where you're like, I don't know. What would you like to do, Mr. Wizard?
So, the recorder is currently running, though, right?
It says recording.
All right.
It says we are at 24:05.
All right. Go ahead and hit stop.
Okay. I've stopped.
And now hit start.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, did you hit start? You didn't confirm it.
Why did you go away?
What? Uh-oh.
You just went away on me.
Oh, I'm not back? You don't hear me? I can hear you. Oh, this is fantastic. I can hear you.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you. What the fuck is going on?
This is great. This is fantastic.
Output.
This is good. This is great.
Headphones. That's what we're doing.
See, this is what people actually really like. This is what people want.
Fatality.
I don't understand any of this.
That's what
right
they
now.
want. That's what they want. That's okay.
Headphones are plugged in. That's fine.
Yeah, I can hear you
fine. Input is set to the blue.
I can hear you fine. Hold on, I'm just confirming to him. I'm saying what I'm typing, and it sounds like the correct mic. I can hear you fine. It sounds like the right. Okay, well I mistyped it and put itty or IT, but
I'm gonna hit record and see if maybe you come back.
Oh yeah, sure.
There you are.
Whoa.
Hey, that's fucking weird.
Okay.
I don't understand what's going on tonight.
Well, I guess what we've learned here.
I'm going to not touch anything.
Well, I guess so. That tells me that the recording actually never stopped, because it seems like when you stop, you can't hear me anymore.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah, but so now we've learned. As long as you can keep hearing, wow, that's really. As long as the timer's running and you can hear me, then I guess. I mean, we'll know because we let it go a little bit after you said, "Well, should we trust it?" So if I hear all that,
I'm sorry, you're going to have a fun time editing this all together.
No, this will be very easy. It's only 2 chunks on your side, and all I have to do is line up the audio. It'll be very easy.
Well, you're of the idea that things are stable now.
Well, I mean, whatever. It doesn't. Okay. Here's what's vitally important.
Yeah.
As long as my recording keeps going and I don't have any problems, if we're both having problems, then it becomes an issue. As long as only one of us is having problems, it's not that hard.
When did I cut out, per se?
God, what were you saying?
I was talking about the guilds. Did you hear me talking about the guild? Romans?
Shit, I don't remember. Okay, yeah, I remember you telling me the concept, and I said it sounds really interesting.
Romans were abducted.
Yeah, and it probably was around there.
Okay, so I'm sorry if I restep, but we'll go from there.
That's okay.
So essentially, there's a guild in space.
Oh my God!
What?
I'm an idiot.
What happened?
Because I missed the chance to do this. Why did I not play that when your thing crashed? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, man, see, I got this whole thing, and I screw up
because you were
one cue.
worried that the thing crashed. So essentially, you have these merchant trade guilds in space, and they have rules about what they consider barbarian planets. And the idea is that you can't just show up with your advanced technology and destroy the locals and take their resources. If you are going to fight them for their resources, you have to fight them at the same level of technology that they're at. And these aliens, they're various aliens as well, are basically, it's almost like Star Trek, where they're looking at each other going, we're not going to fight with swords and shields. Like, this is bullshit. So then someone gets the bright idea, let's find one of the greatest barbarian armies out there, and then use it to essentially fight all these other barbarian armies on our behalf, and then we get the resources, right? So they abduct a Roman army. Now so in the beginning of this, I'm kind of like, okay, what direction is this going to go? So essentially, they have the technology to keep these people immortal. They don't age, and after every battle, after every campaign, they bring them back and they essentially restore them. As long as your brain is not fully destroyed, they can bring you back, right?
Okay.
And when you come back, if you have like a body part cut off or something like that, if they have to rebuild flesh, it always comes back with a red stain from the machine. So you always know afterwards, after a battle, when everyone's on the ship, who's had what hacked off and whatnot. And this is important because at one point the main character gets crushed under a stone wall that's on fire. And when he is returned to the ship, he comes back and he's all red. And everybody essentially knows that he was pretty much dead when they got to him. So everyone's very spooked by him, and the red has to slowly be metabolized out through the body. So neat little things like that. But what's fucked up about this is that I'm halfway through, and the Roman Legion have pretty much figured out that they're essentially slaves forever. That they just keep going from one campaign to the next. They're not physically aging, but mentally they're getting really good at warfare. Like, they're becoming pretty skilled tacticians because they just endlessly fight. And every time they get hurt or broken, they just get brought back. And the main guy, who there's a lot. The only problem in this book, there's a lot of big Roman names, so I just started shortening them. So I keep calling the main guy Vib, because it's like Vibulimus or something like that. It's very Leonidas type of thing. You know what I mean? So I have to shorten them because some of them are just too long for me. So the main guy Vib is he's basically like a captain. He's got his own little area, but he's not in charge of the whole army. They're starting to realize that they may never get out of this, and you see that there's some of the men are beginning to fray, where there's a few guys who've tried to go AWOL, but they've got some kind of tracker on them, from what I understand, so you can't really get away. The only way out is to die, essentially. But knowing these guys, they're gonna do something. But what gets weird is that it's the way that these guys, it begins to dawn on them what's going on, and the way their descriptions, because that they're talking about spaceships, and that there's some kind of advanced technology, and there's sliding doors and shit like that. But you're reading it from the point of view of Roman warriors, so everything is borderline magic, and and they're trying to understand how it works, and it to you, the reader, it just feels like very pulpy sci-fi, but to them, they're like, what is this fucking magic going on? And at the same time, they have to constantly be ready, because every time they get to a new place, they get given weaponry, hauled out the door, and said, okay, this is your campaign, fight. And the weirdest part of the book for me was at one point, the guy who's been running their campaign, who essentially looks like a frog, has been promoted in his guild because this was such a good idea, and he hands it off to this other alien to take over. And this other alien is essentially like a huge mass of jelly with legs, and everyone in the ship is like, what the fuck? Because at least the other guy was vaguely humanoid. This is essentially almost like a jelly mold with legs. So they're not, and he's the commander now. But what's interesting is they're beginning to figure out little by little that all the technology on the ship is automated. So at one point, when the guy gets brought back from the dead, he walks up to the technician and he says, thank you very much for using your skilled sorcery or whatever to bring me back. And the guy's talking to him. He goes, oh, dude, man. He goes, I'm not a skilled sorcerer. He goes, I'm actually the pilot. He's like, but we're not flying. I have to do backup jobs. And he's like, he goes, anybody with a basic education can run this machinery. And it's one of those things where the Romans think that these guys are like ultra skilled, but in reality, it's all plug and play technology. Like there's nothing. They're not any more advanced. They just understand how the iPods work. You know what I mean? But when they hand them over to this new commander, they realize the soldiers are starting to get a little bit out of control. So they were like, "Don't worry, we've arranged for you guys to have female accompaniment," because their whole idea is like, okay, well they're trying to contain them and be like, okay, what do we need to give them between campaigns? Because I know that they put them into deep sleep at some point, but they have to keep them awake for a certain amount of time because they have to heal enough between campaigns, even with the technology. So they have like war games that they can play, and they've got baths for them, but the Romans don't like it because they really want like, big social baths. Instead, it's a room that just sprays you down. And like essentially they're like high-speed showers, and the Romans hate it. So the new commander's like, we have female accompaniment for you guys. And when the main guy, Vib, goes in this room, the other guys have already done it. And he's like, well, how is it? He's like, are they human women? He's like, what's going on? And they're like, just keep the lights low and you'll be fine. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, no, it's just cool. It's fine. He's like, I've done it a few times. He's just keep the lights low and you'll be okay. But that's not good enough for Vib. And this was the interesting moment where he goes in there, and it's this scaled blue alien who has been surgically altered to have vaguely human female dimensions. And I think she must have also some kind of I don't know if she's got some level of psychic element or not, but she can also, it feels like she can also make you see a little bit of what you want. But the guy Vib is like, wait a minute. He's like, this isn't right. And he has her turn the light on. And when he turns the light on, she's this scaled alien that's been given vaguely like she has breasts, and she even says, she's like, they gave these to me. She's like, there's no point to them. She's like, but I know you like them.
Oh God.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like it becomes really horrifying, and she's really sad. And she basically says, well, when they came to my planet, they wiped most of us out, but some of us they took, and they basically gave us this job. She's like, I can please you. She's like, it's okay. And he runs screaming from the room. And that was the moment in the book where I was like, oh yeah, things are getting really weird now. So I wanted to share this with you because it is such a weird book. Like, it's
give me the title of the book again.
Oh.
Because we had the disruption, I didn't have it down before we.
Okay, so it's by David Drake, and it's called Ranks of Bronze.
That's it, Ranks of Bronze.
The book itself, the book itself is out of print, but you can still get it as a digital. You can get it as a digital file.
Yeah, the 3-book series is on Kindle. I see it.
There you go. It was pretty cheap too. And it's mostly a good digital translation. There's a few times where they miss.
Oh, the
spaces.
Series is called Ranks of Bronze. Okay, got it.
What was the first one called then?
I don't know. Hold on. Let me see.
I think the first one is called Ranks of Bronze. Isn't it?
From book 1. Hold on.
Oh,
Ranks of Bronze is the Ranks of Bronze series book 1. Then 4
Okay,
Legions.
there you go.
Okay, so they basically.
Yeah.
I have to admit this is an annoyance of mine when they take the first book's title when there's a series and they just make the whole series that. But whatever.
So yeah, and
I'll link to the 3-book series for everybody.
I suspect, and I have, like I said, I haven't read anything ahead, so this is really just my speculation. I suspect that these guys are going to get advanced enough at some point because they're going to be on the ship for so long, and they're going to fight, and they're going to be fighting for so many years that at some point these guys are going to mutiny. Is the feeling that I get, and that by the time and it's one of those things where like once they're done mutinying, they're going to learn the technology and they're going to become sort of like a mercenary army to deal with. Because if you take people who are tacticians and then you make them fight for what at this point may be like 50, 60 years endlessly, right? At some point, these guys are going to get bright enough to get out of there. But up to now, it's just been so weird. And like, because they just go, they're in this endless. cycle where they're either on a campaign or they're on the ship, and they're on the ship and they're all weirded out, and then when they're on a campaign, it feels familiar to them because they're fighting, but they're always fighting something weird. Like on one planet they're like basically almost like lion people, and another planet they're fucking some kind of like they're not arachnids, there's some kind of reptilian people behind a wall, and like they're always having to outsmart the next person to get back to the ship and to get fixed. Like I said, the main guy Vib, he actually gets like almost killed at one point because things go so horribly wrong, and the action's fantastic because it's Drake has great action, but it's just getting so weird now. And when it got to that moment where they had the surgically altered alien that was there to please the humans, I was like, oh man, this is getting really fucked up now. It's like, I cannot wait to see how much more bizarre this gets, because, and that's the thing with Drake, is I'm used to a lot of like his conventional stuff, where like, you know, he did he did his whole Master and Commander type series, which is all like naval battles, but in space with like, you know, with like warp speed and shit like that. And I love that series. It's Commander Leary Commanding, I think is the first one. I love those. I love his Hammer Slammers, which is all hover tanks. Like, he did a lot of straight action stuff. But I know that he wrote a lot of weird pulp along the way, like between things. And this is one of these weird series he did that's like that. Like I said, it's not even in physical print anymore. And I guess that's kind of the argument you make for digital, that at least digital makes it so that you can experience the literature even if physically it doesn't exist anymore. Although, hands down, I would buy this series in hard copy. I may go looking for hard copy in a used bookstore to see if I can get hold of it, because it is just so weird. It's a concept that sounds so like silly, and then when you start reading it, it's just so weirdly intense, because like there's like no way out for these guys. Like, they've been abducted. Like, at one point, I guess some of these guys try to go AWOL. And the main guy, Viv, says to him, he's like, where the fuck are you going to go? He's like, even if they don't track you, he's like, what are you going to stay on this alien planet? He's like, you're the only humans in this planet. He's like, yeah, I know the air seems okay and the sky seems vaguely familiar. They're like, but like, what are you going to do? And he talks about how the humanoid people that live there, he goes, they're almost human enough that you could find the women attractive. He's like, but their ears are the size of donkeys. He's like, that's some weird shit. And it's just like I can almost see this as like a weird Star Trek episode told from the other end. You know, like in the Star Trek version of things, the Enterprise would discover a Roman army on, like, you know, Romulus 5 or something like that, and be like, how the fuck did these guys get here? Right? Whereas in this situation, it's being told from the Roman army's point of view, where they've been abducted and they're just being handed over from one guild leader to another, fighting all these wars. So, I'm enjoying it, and I wanted to bring it up. Like I said, I'm halfway through, and I don't know what kind of ending this book could possibly have. I hope that they break free, but either way, I don't know what's going to happen, which is fun, but it's just so weird. And like I said, that scene with the sad alien brothel, I was like, oh god, I was like, that is so fucked up. So I wanted to share that. But briefly, in a quick side thought, because I just remembered this, so you know that I'm slowly tracking my way through West Wing.
Yes.
I had the strangest thought about West Wing the other day, and why I was enjoying it. Do you know what I realized that West Wing is to me?
Well,
it's Star Trek.
Oh yeah, sure. The optimistic, non-existent version of things.
Like, White House is the ship. The president is the captain, and then all these people running around him are basically like the people on the Enterprise.
That's of course, that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's why absolutely. I think I'm enjoying it, because it's that idea of this is the captain, and then everybody has their little stories running around the ship, you know. And what's going to be the problem this time? It's like, yeah, it matches up really well when you think about it.
It does, yes.
You know, except that the president doesn't go on, you know, direct combat away missions. He sends other people to do that, which is what a captain is supposed to do.
Right.
But either way, yes, Ranks of Bronze so far is a lot of fun, and I wanted to share it because it's not a book that's readily available in hard copy, or that you would even hear about. But for those looking for a really weird read, like, It's a lot of fun.
I'm also fascinated by the fact that the second book is a set of novellas by various authors and not really a sequel per se.
Oh, is it really? I didn't realize that.
And then the third book is a sequel. So yeah, it's the middle book. It has 6 or 7 authors doing novellas within this universe.
Oh wow!
And then the third book is.
So something must happen at the end of this book that opens it up for novellas.
I guess,
Yeah.
unless the second one is basically the before times for some of these people. I don't know.
I wonder. No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, he's not writing them. Don't forget that. This is
the
by
third,
other
but he
people.
writes the third one, right?
The third one, yeah. The third one I was saying direct sequel. But the second one could be whatever.
I do wonder if, like I said, they become mercenaries or something like that. They break free.
Yeah, unclear. I did not read any details. I just happened to see it. The second one, it showed a bunch of authors, and I was like, "Why?" And it said, "Oh, because they're all novellas."
I love pulp fiction like this, like space pulp fiction, sci-fi pulp fiction. Sure. I love this stuff. So, because you have to go to such weird places, and it's such weird thought experiments. You know, like it just. The concept is so silly, and yet when you start reading it, you're like, "Nah, this is a lot of fun, actually." Like Romans, okay, yeah, they're fighting other people at the same technology level as them. I mean, what do they call that in Star Trek? What is it like? It's not First Worlds. What do they call that?
No, First Contact, or pre-warp technology.
But there wasn't there a name for planets that were?
Yeah, well, pre-warp.
Yeah, pre-warp technology. Yeah, so they're basically they're wandering around fighting other pre-warp cultures.
Sure.
So on the behalf of Yeah, I'd love to know. Like,
so you
this
said
makes
on the
me
surface, it sounds goofy, but in fact, it's very good, right?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So you might say that you can't always judge a book by its cover.
You can definitely not a Bane cover.
There you go.
A Bane, you cannot judge any Bane cover.
God, that seemed really low.
I don't know what you did. Did you try?
Oh, you didn't hear it?
No, I didn't.
I was doing that. Don't judge a book by its cover. Whatever. I'll punch it up in the audio in the edit. It's fine. It'll be much better there.
Yeah. So I figured I'd bring this to our listeners and to you as well, because this is kind of the weird shit that you would like reading. It's light reading. You know what I mean? So like it's not like something that you have to heavily think about, but it's fun reading, and it gets weird quick.
I do enjoy not having to heavily think.
Yeah, that's and the thing is, like, it makes sense because you're reading stuff and you're like, yeah, it's like this shit would be like magic to these guys, like it's such magic.
Well,
like,
it makes
doors.
complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a moment in this book that actually gave me pause, where they're trying to keep these guys under control, but they also have to show them because they think they're barbarians. So they've got an energy wall, and the energy wall is you can't see it, right? It's just there. But rather than tell them, hey guys, there's an energy wall here, they grab one of these Romans and they throw him into the wall, the guards. And when the guy hits the wall, he basically vaporizes into powder. And suddenly everybody is just covered in the remains of this guy. And everyone in the room is like, what the fuck? And I remember I was reading it, and I was like, holy shit, they just threw him into the wall. I was like, he just turned into powder.
So wait, they took one of the Roman legion guys?
They took one of the Romans, yeah, because they needed the Romans to understand they couldn't fuck around with them. And I think that some of they have a level of fear of them because hand-to-hand wise, they are really great warriors.
And they felt that the best way to demonstrate this, instead of just telling them, was to coat them all in dead legion powder?
Yeah, it was to throw this guy into the wall to see, like, this is what happens if you fuck with us. And to some degree, it does work, right? So, yeah, it's just... I'm very curious about what the rest of this universe must be like. Like, is there a Starfleet? Is there space police? Like, is it just guild merchant wars? Like, what's going on out there beyond this? And I like that. I liked when a book piques my interest enough to be like, what's going on beyond this ship? And I'm hoping that we get there. But for now, it's just weird space Romans.
Wow, that weird space Roman sounds fun. It sounds like an interesting book. I'll be curious if you read the next two, how those are.
Yeah, well, I bought them because it was a package.
So you bought the series. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but now that I know that the second one is short stories written by other people, We'll see. We'll see if I don't just skip to the Drake one. I like Drake. He's a great writer for me. I am.
No, well, I would at least give the first one a chance.
But I will look to see. I'll look to see who writes the short stories too, because sometimes he can get really fun people.
I did not look. Let's see who writes it.
Who he gets to write with him.
I think one of the names did look familiar. Let's see. Hold on. Here it is. So the second one.
Yeah.
David Drake does one of them, so that's a good sign.
Oh, there you go. That'll be readable.
That must be the name I saw. Eric Flint, S.M. Sterling, Mark L. Van Name, which seems like a fake name.
He's got a whole bunch of other pulpy guys.
Yeah, and David Weber.
Yeah. Okay, I know all these guys. These guys all write pulpy shit for Bane.
These are novellas by these individuals that explore the bleeding edge between human courage and the science of alien slave masters. The right man with a sword is just as deadly as a technician with a laser. And not all blood spilled will be red.
Yeah, I know. They're so terrible.
These are Michael Bay taglines. Yesterday they were the best infantry on Earth. Now they're going to take on the whole galaxy.
Yeah, it's so. Like I said, when you read the descriptions and the covers, it's so cheesy.
Oh my God, this is the best bio line for David Drake. Vietnam veteran, former lawyer, former bus driver, and now best-selling author David Drake. That's great.
I didn't know he was a bus driver at any point. I didn't know he was
the last bullet point before author is
former
fantastic.
Bus driver. Yes.
Wow. That's great.
Yes,
Good
I was genuinely sad when I found out that David Drake had passed away, because I was like, oh man, I was like, I there's two writers that I was just. William Gibson's the third, but he's not dead yet, so I'm very happy about that. But like when Terry Pratchett died and when David Drake died, I was very sad because it felt to me like a great force of goodness and enjoyment had gone out of the world.
Sure.
And I'm so grateful for that both of them were prolific writers. Like Drake has got a ton of shit, and so does Terry Pratchett, which I love. And it always makes me sad that Gibson's as slow as he is. He's a great author, man, but he takes his time. And I understand that because I take my time. But you don't want him to die.
Man. I want more, man.
Yeah, just give me one more book before you stop, please. Just one more. Sure. We're at the end of that Periphery trilogy. Come on. It's like Douglas Adams died when he was part of the way of outlining the next Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book. And it's so sad because Mostly Harmless has a bummer of an ending for what is a hilarious series.
Right.
And that he would have found some ridiculous way to kind of make that not matter as much as it does. But the fact that it was the last one and then he passed away, you're like, oh, they all died.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
cheeriest ending.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting to go back to the digital technology thing. The one from the How Technology Shapes Us. She was talking about how literature is very fascinating because when you read a sentence is not something that naturally happens in society. It's something completely manufactured by humans. The concept of a sentence, right? A sentence is time happening. And when you read a sentence, you are literally reading somebody's thought process put into an order. Right? So the reading of a book is touching base with the psychology of another human being. And they're saying that like when you read, it actually creates a great sense of empathy because you are connecting with another person's mind on this literature-based level. You are seeing their thoughts happen on paper. And they are then getting into your thoughts and creating images. So it's an incredibly intimate and important psychological bridge that actually causes, by and large, to make people more empathetic, which I think is fascinating.
Like I said, it sounds fascinating.
So, anyway, now to go to something...
and now for something completely different.
Which is, I saw the most recent Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire. And I told Joe the other night I saw this, but I was like, I'll tell you about it in the show. It's like, and my review is kind of middle of the road. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great.
Sure.
It's
which is generally every review I've read of it has been.
Yeah, and that's
not
that's
bad.
The, like
it's just
I'm not going to tell
good.
you. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you not to see it. It just feels like, man, it feels like it wanted to be a 3-hour movie with the amount of shit that's in it. Honestly, I will tell you the one thing that bothers me about this movie. The one thing that genuinely I was like, what is the idea that in the last movie, Paul Rudd was a very secondary character, right?
Yeah.
He was secondary, and it was about the little girl and her brother, and the fact that they were the grandkids of Harold Ramis. Egon, yeah, they were Egon's grandkids, right? And it was that connection to him and the relationship with their mother. Like, that was the kind of front and center of the movie. And then the old Ghostbusters didn't show up till the very end, and that was fine because they didn't show up till the end. And you know, whereas in this movie, it's like someone said, "Hey, you've got Paul Rudd, you better fucking use him." So suddenly, Paul Rudd is like running the show, right? Like he is the co-lead with the little girl. And like, don't be wrong, I like Paul Rudd. He's a friendly guy, and he's kind of playing this in that Paul Rudd way that he does, where like you can't dislike him, and he's extremely excited about being a Ghostbuster. And in the realm of the stories, his character is a science teacher, who knew that something weird was going on in that town they were in before the girl came to him. So, and he's still dating, and he's still with her mom. I don't know if I think he's married now to her mom. So like, it makes sense that he is there. It's just that they make him very prevalent, and it doesn't, like, after having him be the secondary in the last one, it doesn't make sense for him to be so primary in this one. And it just very much feels like the studio said, Paul Rudd will sell this movie. We want Paul Rudd as a lead. And at least they were like, well, we'll make him the co-lead, because really it's the girl's story. And she's very good, and it's some different shit they did with her, which is essentially like, so Peck, remember Pecker from the first Ghostbusters?
Oh, of course, yes, I know. Yeah, he came back for this.
Yeah, he's the mayor, and he wants to essentially, and this feels very sort of ham-handed. Even after everything that's gone on, he wants to destroy the Ghostbusters building. He wants to take the whole thing down. He wants to destroy it. He's annoyed that they're still as popular as they are. And Paul Rudd and Egon's, daughter and kids are running the Ghostbusters, but they're causing a lot of property damage. And because of that, the girl essentially gets shelved because they're like, listen, you're underage. We're already in so much trouble. We can't have you riding with us because we have a minor, so she gets shelved, and that really pisses her off and kind of sets off the other direction of the movie. And they do some interesting things in there. They are like, Winston is starting a whole almost like a Ghostbusters core, where he's got a whole lab now where they're studying ghosts and catching them and trying to understand like what's going on. And they've got, and do you know who James Acaster is?
The name sounds familiar. So
he's a British comedian. Yeah, I really enjoy him. I've watched him in a lot of shows.
What's his name? James Acaster.
James Acaster. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he has a very kooky deadpan delivery.
Oh yes, I know who this is.
Yes, I've watched him in a ton of British shows. So he is essentially running Winston's Ghost Corps.
Okay.
And he's actually quite good because he plays it in this sort of deadpan way, and he's he's kind of like an Egon almost, but he's not as brilliant as Egon, but he's essentially a scientist type. And I enjoyed him. I enjoyed him as a new character. They brought one of the girls from the first movie over to be kind of his assistant, and they are essentially looking for magical items. They are testing things, and like, it does open up. It opens up to me a really interesting idea, which is take it out. You still have that firehouse component where people are catching ghosts, but now you've brought it into this other realm where it's like, they're also trying to understand what's going on, and they have several phantasms. And there's actually a really great scene where the power goes off in their place, and when the power goes off, they have aliens. They have ghosts that are essentially being inhibited by almost like proton fields. So it's like a proton pack field that they can't get out of. And when the power goes down, suddenly all these ghosts start coming out. And it's actually genuinely a pretty creepy scene, which I like, because in the original Ghostbusters, there was shit that was creepy. It was funny, but it was also creepy. You know what I mean? So I like that they've tried to keep some of that. But it is... it's a fun movie at times, but at other times, like they use Bill Murray very sparingly, and I'm happy about that. There's almost too much of him, but luckily they show him. There's one scene where he shows up where he's essentially psychologically testing somebody, and that makes sense. But later on, when he shows up, like he's good for some of it, but there are a lot of elements that feels very stuck. He feels very stuck in at times, whereas Dan Aykroyd is fantastic as Ray, because Ray still is involved in all this stuff and he's still doing the research, and he is the counterbalance to Winston, where Winston is very much like running things almost like on a corporate level, and Ray is still the guy who's going to the bookstore to look shit up. Do you know what I mean?
And also because Dan Aykroyd is the biggest cheerleader for this series. And
he loves
been, whereas
Ghostbusters.
Bill Murray was convinced they should never have made a sequel to begin with and is only doing it for the money.
Yeah, I know. And Ray is great. And the storyline with Egon's daughter essentially ties up with Ray. And so there's a lot of that story that's them, which is really enjoyable. And they threw something weird in there where essentially Egon's daughter is pissed off with her family and goes, and she's sitting in the park at night and she meets a ghost. Now, it's very likely that she would just happen to meet a ghost, even though she is a Ghostbuster. But you know what? It kind of makes sense because you realize later that this ghost was sent looking for her. And the storyline between her and this ghost is really, actually, I thought it was something new, where this is also a young girl, and she's died in a house fire and a tenant fire, and they get along really well. But I said to my wife, I was like, you know what? I was like, is it me, or is there like some weird romantic level to this relationship? Like at the end when the ghost girl,
I read there was supposed to be that it was supposed to.
Okay,
be
yeah. So at the end when the
thing.
ghost girl is going to pass on to like the other realm, she's done on Earth. I thought they were going to kiss or something like that. And I was like, is this just me being a dirty old man? I was like, am I seeing this? And I asked my wife about it because I was like, am I being weird? It's like, this is just me being weird, like lesbians. And she's like, no, I totally thought they were going to kiss. And I was like, okay. And my wife said, I think that was the idea. And then somebody said, hey, if these are lesbians, you're going to have a problem with like, part of your viewership. And so the whole groundwork for that relationship is there, and then nothing ever comes of it. But you feel it. You definitely feel it that it's there. I picked up on it. My wife picked up on it. So other than that, you know what? It's a fun Ghostbusters movie. There are plot holes. There's things that don't make sense. But at the same time, Slimer is still a puppet, which I liked. And the main villain I think is partially a puppet that they then use digital effects on. And I actually like the way that the bad guy in this looks, and I like the concept of him. And I wish they had done more with him, because so essentially they have this brass orb that is containing some kind of evil, right? And what Winston's Ghost Corps are doing is they're finding items that are possessed, and they are removing the possession from the items and then sending those ghosts directly into to their huge containment field they have where they are. And at one point they try to pull whatever is in this thing, and it essentially shorts everything out. And what you discover is that this is some kind of ghost god of death that was around during the time of like Sumeria, that aligned itself with some king, and then the king essentially realized that it was too difficult to control, so he imprisoned it, and it's been in this orb since. And I know that there's this whole side thing where there's a character who has pyrokinesis, and you had said that, I think you read some review where you said people thought that character was more interesting and they wanted more of him.
Yeah, I read a number of different things that said, oh, this is a great character that should have been the villain or something, or should have been a villain in his own movie, maybe? Something like that.
Oh, really? The pyrokinetic? Oh,
that's the guy from Marvels and Silicon Valley. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think he's the pyrokinetic. He's not the villain. He's basically some guy.
What they're saying is that character should have been placed in I guess a sequel to this, or for a follow up where he was a villain.
I had as much of him as I wanted, he was kind of an annoying funny, and I was, you know, with the second one, how who's the guy who's working for Vigo?
Oh, what is his name? Yeah.
We're like
the Upper
the
West
guy,
Side.
The guy who's working for Vigo.
Janosch.
Like he's
Janosch.
Janosch. Yeah, he's funny a lot of the time, but there are moments in that movie where you're like, I've had enough of.
Yeah,
of
they did overdo him. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That this guy, I have as much of this character as I wanted. I don't need more of him. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I don't need it. He doesn't need his own movie. We're good. But it just feels like they tried to shove a lot of fan service in here. They tried to shove a lot of characters in here. And it is mostly enjoyable. There's enough new ideas. There's enough new concepts. I'm not. I'd like to know what their plans are from here on out, but I also don't feel like I need another Ghostbusters movie. I mean, honestly, they definitely are going to make more, because there's actually their production company is called Ghost Corps now. So clearly,
yeah, and I
somebody
think this movie did well enough. I think it did money. So, and it wasn't review bombed. So that's all you really need anymore.
I mean, and listen, my kids really enjoyed it. I don't feel like I wasted my time. I just wish that there was better writing. You know, and like, to give you an idea of the amount of fan service. At one point, they go to the New York Library to find information, and when they get there, Patton Oswalt is one of the librarians they talk to. When they're leaving the library, Dan Aykroyd sees the ghost from the first movie that's still there.
The librarian?
The librarian that's still there in the basement.
All right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, but the movie is full of that. It has so many little, like, fan service things kind of injected in there, but the movie gets heavy, you know. And then when you get to the final fight, where this creature gets free and essentially freezes all of New York, the fight feels like it's super quick. Like, it shows up and it's pissed off, and the little girl figures out that it can't protect itself. So the proton packs don't work on it. And the little girl figures out that it's susceptible to brass, and that the proton packs work off of different metals. So she essentially switches the metals in her proton pack to brass. So none of the other proton packs affect it, but hers do. So between her and the pyrokinetic, they're able to hold it until it gets sucked into the containment unit. And it just felt like I just felt like there was going to be more to that finale. You know what I mean? Rather than he just shows up and there's a thing and we just fucking catch him and that's it. You know, for a creature who's essentially everyone's afraid, like even other ghosts are afraid of, through the bulk of the movie. I just expected a little more. And maybe that's a good thing. The fact that I watched a 2-hour movie and I was sitting there thinking, you needed another half hour here, guys. Because you were trying to do a lot. Right. Maybe that's a good thing. I mean, if you're going to err on the side of one or the other, you want to err on the side of people wanting more rather than people wanting less. But if you're going to have this many characters and you're going to have this much mythology going on, you're going to need the space for it. Because, I mean, you got you got Paul Rudd, and then you've got Egon's daughter, and then you've got Egon's grandkids, and then you've got Winston, and then you've got Ray, and then you've got James Acaster, who's the new Ghost Corps guy, and his assistant. You know, and then you've got Bill Murray and Sally Potts. Is it Sally Potts? Sally Potts, right?
Yeah.
Annie Potts.
Annie, I was going to say the Potts part was right. I couldn't
Annie
remember
Potts
Sally.
is back.
Yeah,
so, like, you've got a really big cast. And everybody's doing things. I mean, Annie Potts isn't doing that much, but Winston and Ray are doing stuff, and James Acaster is doing stuff, and everybody has scenes, you know. So it just feels like, you know, like I don't want to use the phrase miniseries because I hate that, but like there was so much here that it could have been a miniseries. You know what I mean? And you've got so many characters, and I don't know if they're trying to transition fully to like a new lineup of people, or they want a Ghost Corps, but like it's just it in itself was not great but not bad, and I could have gone for more storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, do you feel compelled to see it?
No, not at all. I honestly,
even before my reviews.
No, there was. I mean, I just don't. My biggest problem with all these is that none of them, and I mean any of them, that have followed the second one, have been willing to do a clean break from the traditional cast. Meaning they have to put them in somehow. And to me, that's just now in any movie like that.
Yeah.
I kind of am disinterested.
And the thing with this is that I didn't mind some of the ways that they had. So in the last one.
Well, let me just finish a little
ahead.
bit of. So the problem I have with when they bring these original characters back, and there's exceptions, of course, but what I would have preferred is had they done. There's two alternate universes where I'd be interested in this movie. One is that they did the all-female cast, but had none of the original actors in it, and made it a sequel to the originals, saying that that they didn't exist, just playing it as a sequel. Or that they had done the first one of this one, what was Afterlife, and again had none of the original people, except they could have had the whole thing with Egon because you discover he's their grandfather or whatever, and that's at the end, and that's it.
Well,
that's it. And then do this one because then it makes sense to have them come back because you've established that we could do a movie without them.
And the thing I think is they could have made it so that the Ghostbusters are gone, right? And you almost have. The female Ghostbusters basically realize that there is an opening where there's no Ghostbusters in the city and that there should be, and they become the Ghostbusters, right? I would have watched that movie. And then you can still have Afterlife because it's essentially what happened to Egon after he stopped being a Ghostbuster. And then you can do it so that the Egon's granddaughter essentially, or her family, essentially come back and work with the new Ghostbusters. Now, what I was going to say about Frozen Empire is that I didn't mind how they did some of it. So, like, the fact that Winston is funding things, you know what? I don't mind that. There is something organic to that.
Yeah, nothing I read about it
and
said,
the way that
this
Ray,
was terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the way that Ray is helping them, right?
And see, this is what makes sense that this is the big thing for the second sequel.
Yeah, it makes sense because at one point Winston says, Ray, why are you still doing this? Like, you should be retired. You should just be your goal, because he almost gets killed by something at one point. And Ray says, this is what I like to do. He's like, this is my golden years. He's like, this is what I want to be doing.
Right, sure.
He's like,
because this is Dan Aykroyd speaking of himself, which makes
exactly.
sense.
And Bill Murray, if they had just brought him in for the scene where they're testing the whether this guy has pyrokinetic powers, it makes sense that he's there because that is his area.
Now, see,
right?
My angle on
he just didn't need to come back for the ending, but I guess he knew something was up, so he showed up.
No, see, and to me, the way that you do the Venkman thing is you follow the playbook of the X-Men First Class thing. You remember in X-Men First Class when Professor X and Magneto start bouncing around trying to recruit people?
Looking for mutants, yeah.
And they come in, and there's Logan sitting there, and they're like, hey, and he's like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So the Ghost, of course, they're not going to do go fuck yourself, but the Ghostbusters version is, okay, we need to get some of the original team, and they go to find Venkman, and he's sitting somewhere, and he turns around, and Sigourney Weaver's also sitting there, and he's like, nope, we're good, and that's the only scene with them is the two of them are together. That's it. We're good. Don't come back to it, man. Just leave them alone because Bill Murray doesn't want to do it. It's very clear. I mean, I saw a clip of him, and he looks bored. It's like, okay.
And then the thing is, he didn't need to show up for the ending. They had him show up because they had him there, and they were like, we're gonna have. But like, yeah. It because Ray and Winston make complete sense. Winston got shafted. Well, he didn't get shafted. He didn't have a lot of time in the original, right? So this is kind of make up for the fact that he came in late to the originals. Okay, put him in charge. Makes sense. He was the practical one. This is who you want running it. Makes complete sense. And Ray is the zealot, the true believer. These characters make complete sense. You don't need anything else. I mean, the Egon Ghost thing is fine for Afterlife, but that's all. And I'm glad that Egon's Ghost is gone. I was worried they were going to try to bring him back.
Well, hey, don't count it out. It could still happen. But that's what I'm saying is, I would prefer that these sequels. It's kind of like Blade Runner 2049, right?
Break new ground.
Well, yeah, because we have a whole bunch of 2049 before you see Harrison Ford. He's way into it. But you establish all this other stuff first, and it works, and then you're confident that, okay, if you can handle the world, then you can bring Deckard back in. And he's not brought back in to become a Blade Runner again.
And he's not even the most important part of this movie.
No, he's not at all. And that's the thing, is he's there to connect with his daughter, to give the character a little bit of closure, and it's beautiful. And it's simple, and it's done. And I do like the fact that, to go to 24/9 again, the fact that they directly take on is he a replicant or not? And he's like, well, what does it matter? Sure I am. Sure I'm not. Who cares? You know, it doesn't make a difference. That's not the important thing. Which to me feels like it's pointing at the audience and saying, hey, who cares? You're missing the point of the movie if there's an answer. So there are sequels, I think, that do it correctly. And that's why I have no interest. It's not really because I think it's a bad movie. I'm sure it's not. But Afterlife, I've also read and seen people whose reviews I think are worthwhile. So it's not terrible. It's just okay.
I think Afterlife was a better movie for me.
That's very possible, sure.
Because the original Ghostbusters don't show up till the very end, so it's one of those things that's just they shoved him in at the last minute. Otherwise, it's very much about Egon's daughter and Egon's ghost, and I liked the way that they did it.
Yeah, and see, that's where, again, I like it better when they kind of focus in on the characters a little more. So if it had just been about Egon's granddaughter and daughter or whatever, and then he was the only element of it, I think that probably would have been more appealing to me. I don't need them all to show up and fire proton. I don't need it. I don't. It's such a nothing thing. And then in the second one, the Winston and Ray thing makes sense because those characters are the ones that either we didn't get enough of, Winston, or are really the heart of the whole thing, which is Ray. So those characters being present makes a lot of sense to me. So I don't doubt the movie's fine. But I have zero interest in ever watching it. Will likely never watch it just because I just have no interest. That's all. But not because I'm against it. Whatever.
Listen, I would not have watched Frozen Empire if I wasn't watching with my kids.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about.
We were looking for a movie to watch, and I was like, you know what, this will be easy.
And in that way, that's good because younger viewers are not going to watch the original one. So okay, fine, let them watch this one.
We did watch the originals.
That's why we're here. A lot of younger people will not watch movies before X year. It's just the way it is. I know. Right? It's just the way it is. It's fine. There's no point in railing against it. It's how life works. So if this is their entry point, and this maybe gets them to consider watching it, then fine, let it exist. If it's the gateway drug to get them to watch the superior ones, go for it. Whatever.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think we forget that what made the first Ghostbusters so good was that it was genuinely a funny and creepy movie at times.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're trying to find that element of, well, that's kind of creepy, but also that's fucking hilarious. And I think that they're getting.
Yeah, I was looking at that Gozer statue that.
Sexy Gozer.
Well, sideshows. Well, it's not. It's just how she is in the movie. But it is interesting that character is a very good combination of creepy and sexy at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like the red eyes, when you really just look, because you see so little of her in the movie.
I like the design for the monster in this. Like that when he gets out finally, and he's this kind of he's this big black thing, but then he gets these curled up horns, and he sticks them in his head, which I guess is the source of his power. And when he does, the horns slowly unwind and turn straight. It's actually very interesting and creepy. I mean, this movie could have very easily been rated R because once he starts freezing the city and shooting like icicles and everything, the body count would have been through the roof. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe these movies just become kids' movies after a while. Where they're.
Listen, in many ways, most movies are going to be aimed at younger audiences, so this is somewhat inevitable.
Yeah.
Although I was just reading an article that said, hey, maybe now that all these big blockbusters are failing to make big money, maybe this is the end of it. So.
Yeah, they're saying that.
And that's not bad.
People aren't necessarily going to theaters like they were before.
Well, no kidding. I mean, listen,
apparently
it's not the pandemic either. Because, man, I really didn't want to go to theaters much before the pandemic because people are scumbags. So I was already on the way out.
Movies are 3 hours long, and you're sitting in the theater. Did you see
that? The poll where people said the ideal time is 90 minutes?
Oh, wow, really?
There was a poll where people said, what is the And if you think about it, that makes sense in a lot of ways. It makes sense for younger viewers because parents don't want to sit in a 3-hour kids movie because they're bored. Also, for older people, they don't want to sit in a theater for 3 hours, especially when your TV at
and
home is just as good in many cases.
Yeah, and if you leave and then you miss half the movie because you had to take a piss because the size large Coke is like the size of a kegger.
Also, do I want to sit through 20 minutes of previews and then a 3-hour movie before, and that's after the Coke commercial, the intermission, the sell you M&Ms, whatever crap? It's 30 minutes before the movie even starts, and then there's the trailers. So it's like
like you said, our TVs are huge.
Right, and you can just skip everything that you don't like in those. If it starts off with the FBI
Dude,
and piracy warning,
my wife made fun of me because I hate watching the opening credits for shows. There's only
only a few that I like. Yeah,
there's only 2 shows that I will watch the opening credits for.
What We Do in the Shadows is one for us.
Oh, yes,
because the song's great. The song is so good. So
I do like the song. It's Farscape and Doctor Who. That's it.
Some Doctor Who. I don't like most of the themes.
It's the music. I do like most of the music that they do for them.
I only like the
my
fourth,
kids, because my kids are like,
sixth.
why can't we just skip this? And I was like, because I want it to be burned into your head. I want the Doctor Who theme to be in there.
Well, that's my ringtone on my phone, so it's burned into everybody's head that knows me.
But otherwise, like I will skip the intros as much as I can. My wife is like, "Why do you care so much about skipping them?" I'm like, because it's time of my life. I'm not going to get back. Yeah, it's like I don't need to watch this again. I'm good.
And a lot of them aren't really good, to be honest.
No.
A lot of them don't really do enough to matter. Next Generation is another one I won't skip because it's a great theme, so I'll listen to that.
Have you seen the opening for the Night Detective show with Jodie Foster?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I like that one.
That's actually pretty good. I mean, that is genuinely creepy.
Yeah, no, and there are examples like that where that's not really like a TV show to me. That's a limited series. It's not. You're going to be watching that for 24 episodes.
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got for you.
Well, I had the opposite for you because
good.
I watched.
What is that? What the hell does that mean? Did you watch shit? I mean, like.
No. I mean, you watched a
middling movie.
A movie that is made for a general audience, right?
Okay.
I mean, you would agree that movie is kind of made to be
all
access.
General consumption. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Whereas I watched Love Lies Bleeding, the bodybuilder lesbian heist film.
Oh man, I read about that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what convinced me
because it's to use your phrase, that is a muscular movie.
Oh boy, is it? Let me tell you. Okay, so the thing that sold me to pay the $20 rental on it, because it's one of those.
Oh wow.
There was 2 things. One, I didn't realize it was an A24 film for a while.
Oh yeah. I read about that movie and I was kind of like, what was this? And then when I realized it was an A24, I was like, oh, this is going to be weird.
Well, I didn't know that. But then I also read a review that said, if you enjoyed Bound, this is a variation on Bound.
Wow. Did they put those together? Okay.
Well, you know what? It's very accurate. This is a grimier version of Bound set in 1989.
Grimier.
Yeah, this is like grimy, muscular drama. So
it's like
even
it's
the
big
plot
hair.
lines,
It's big hair 80s, right?
No. There's no big hair. It's more of just like Joe Dirt 1980s. It's more of this is outskirts type of people.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's not big hair, but it is set in a particular time. I think to avoid the cell phone convention. They want to just and also. This feels like if Bound had been directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I don't know. I never pronounced his name correctly, because it's very neon colored and it's playing up the aesthetics. What kids now call vibes, what I call atmosphere. It's what the old people call it. It's very much of that atmosphere where everything has very, very bathed in kind of neon colors, lighting, and it's much more about the scenes than the specific narrative at times.
What's weird is that the woman who plays the really muscular chick.
Oh, she's jacked.
So
she's a martial artist, right?
Yeah. So she's in The Mandalorian at one point.
Yeah, I saw that. She plays a commander or something, right?
She basically plays an ex.
You can't see her physique at all.
No. That's the thing. She plays an ex. What do you call it? An ex-imperial person who says that she's been, who's changed and everything like that. And then you find out that Moff Gideon is using her to essentially take out scientists that might tell anybody what he's been up to. So she sets up a scientist to get lobotomized, right? So she's a bad guy.
So this is third season then, because I don't remember this.
Yeah, so you see her, and when she's in it, she's very good in her role, right? And then I was like, who is this woman? She seems familiar. And when I looked her up, I realized that she was like really fucking jacked.
Oh, you see everything of her.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, who is this woman? And then she's got a couple of interesting roles, like kind of like little action shit along the way.
Yeah, she was in *Halt and Catch Fire*. I don't remember her in that, but I have to rewatch that series.
That's what I mean.
Really
I think she had kind of small roles and stuff. I think this is one of her kind of really big.
Well, I also have a feeling that what makes her stand out in this is they really do show off how ripped she is. I mean, you constantly see her almost nude and completely nude at times, but you see her a lot in the kind of bodybuilder bikini. So it's very clear what kind of shape she's in. Whereas I think a lot of those other roles...
She had to get bodybuilder fit for this, huh?
Well, it's interesting because it begins to get surreal in terms of the bodybuilding itself. It starts to go into kind of art. It gets very art house because she literally becomes a giant at one point. And I don't really know what to make of that scene because it's played as if she is actually a giant. But, okay. So... the movie starts out.
Oh, yeah. So this, just to give you a quick idea of this woman's performances.
Sure.
She's popped up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
I didn't see
She's popped up in Magnum P.I., the redo. She's popped up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for 3 episodes. She was in Westworld for an episode. She was in Black Lightning. She was in Z Nation. She was in The Walking Dead. She was in, let's see, whatever else. She's popped up in a lot of, shit. But this is her first kind of real big role.
But again, I think the reason that I don't really remember her is probably because I doubt she was as physically present as she is in this.
No, if they made her bodybuilder fit, yeah.
Well, I don't think she is.
All right, no, okay. Let me explain this to you, right? When you are a bodybuilder, like an actual, not a weightlifter, there's a big difference. Mm-hmm. Weightlifters is just people who want to be strong. When you're a bodybuilder, you actually have to be sculpted in such a way.
Okay, and that was where it's exactly where I was going. Is when you see her in the competition next to the other people, she does not look as literally chiseled out of concrete as they do.
Okay,
that is not to the detriment. I just don't think that they told her you have to look like this. I think they understood that for the movie, that is not important. But when you see her in the competition, those other people must be real bodybuilders because their bodies do not look normal. They don't look naturally occurring. They are exactly what I've always seen bodybuilders, where every muscle is so clearly defined on their body that it is almost off-putting.
And there's no moisture in the skin, right? It's
nothing.
All veins.
That's it.
And they do that. They do the spray tan. They do the weird spray tan.
Oh, they show it. They show that. Yep, they show it. Yeah, and she does not look like that. She looks like she is in excellent physical shape. Like she's got muscles. You can see it. You can see pictures of it. But when she's on that stage next to what I have to believe are actual bodybuilders, unless they digitally did that to those people, and it doesn't seem like that would be what point. Just bring the real bodybuilders in. Those people look like you see that on the magazines, where it's like perfection as far as somebody has, as you said, dehydrated them to the point of, oh, you're going to be in trouble if you don't drink something within 30 minutes. But
so outside of that, plot-wise, it's a weird movie.
Well, it's not weird. It's just very arty, and then it gets a little weird at the end because there is this one thing so the bodybuilder drifts into town. She's basically homeless. She's on her way to Las Vegas. She's run away from home. I don't know how old they're really supposed to be. I mean, they're of legal age, but I don't know what the age is. There's lots of things they just leave vague, and you just infer whatever you want. They never even specify the year. The only reason you really start to pick up, and I would never have said 1989 necessarily, but you start hearing like Bush 1 talking, and you hear them referring to certain events, and the fact that they're using radios with tape players and no one has a cell phone, then you start figuring out, okay, this is clearly, and the songs they're playing are 80s songs. So I'm like, okay, this is clearly supposed to either be evoking the 80s or it's in the 80s. Well, it says here it's set in 89, so I just saw that. So she comes into town, and because she's trying to make her way to Las Vegas for a bodybuilding competition that she's confident she can win because she's in great shape. And she comes into town, and the first thing she does is she's looking for a job. She finds a guy who says, well, if I can have sex with you, you can have a job. And she's like, okay, fine. And so lets the guy have sex with her, gets a job at a local gun range where Ed Harris, looking like the Crypt Keeper from, I'm not exaggerating, looking like the Crypt Keeper. If you look at pictures of him, He is terrifying looking. Like you would not want to run into him anywhere. But he looks like a more lotioned version of the Crypt Keeper, and he is running the gun range, and the guy that she has sex with is his son-in-law. And then Kristen Stewart you find out is Ed Harris's daughter. They're estranged, who is running the gym that he owns. And the guy that the bodybuilder had sex with is her brother-in-law because her sister is married to him. And, so she comes into the gym because she's working in town, and she's working out, and Kristen Stewart immediately becomes smitten with her. And, they start kind of dating, and then the girl says, well, I have nowhere to live. And Kristen Stewart's like, well, then live with me. And so she's living with her, and she's talking about how she wants to get into this bodybuilding contest. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, how are you going to get your steroids if you don't know anybody in town? She's like, well, what are you talking about? She's like, well, you must be doing steroids, right? Everybody's doing them. And she's like, no, this is all just from me. And Kristen Stewart said, well, let me hook you up. And so she starts giving her steroids. And that's when the movie starts. It has this one specific surrealist element, which is when she takes the steroids, her muscles just start growing instantly, like Hulk style. Like they just start ballooning, almost comically, but not.
Weird.
And I believe it's for effect. Did
they film this over time, or is that a special effect?
No, it's clearly because it's close-ups and stuff, so I think it's a special effect. I think they're either doing CGI on her actual body, because it's all close-ups of like the muscles suddenly getting big and veiny, or they gave her, like they did a prosthetic effect. I guess they could have. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. But and there's parts where like you see her, and then at the end she literally tears out of her clothing and becomes 50 feet tall. But that's at the very, very end. So she starts taking the steroids, and, steroids can make you a little bit crazy if you take too much of them. And so she's basically realizing that these things are letting her get really big really fast. And so she starts taking more than she should be of them. And simultaneously, we find out that the brother-in-law is beating his wife. And Kristen Stewart is basically at one point says, you touch her again and I'll kill you. And he's like, you know what? Before you worry about what's going on in my house, maybe you should take a look at your girlfriend, because before she decided to have sex with you for a free place to live, she had sex with me for a free place to work. And Kristen Stewart kind of flips out, because it's very much a dramatic film for about, I don't know, the first half, and then it turns into something else. But Kristen Stewart has this breakdown, and they have this big fight. And then, she's like, all right, you're right. I should have, because she says, you don't understand. This guy's a scumbag. He's beating my sister. All this stuff is going on. And she's like, well, you didn't bother to say that to me. But there's also several sequences. It's a really fascinating movie. I believe the director is a woman. Hold on. Rose Glass is the director. She is an English film director and screenwriter. And the only other thing that she made is a horror film called Saint Maud, which I have not seen, but I have read is very, very good. And the fascinating thing is there are several very specifically graphic sex sequences, which are, I guess they could function as erotic for some, but they're more interesting in terms of the fact that they're kind of character studies.
Is this what was that movie with Joaquin Phoenix? He's a detective, and it's based off of a postmodern book.
Oh, yeah. What was that? Yes, I know, but it had a cool title.
It's like, hold on.
Oh, it has a neat title. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, because
that
was another. That was another. Actually, was that A24?
It would make sense if it was. It's called
Inherent Vice. Yeah, it's based off
I was going to say it has a neat name.
Who's the writer? Yeah, but who's the writer? The writer is Thomas Pynchon.
Pynchon. That's
Thomas Pynchon. Yeah. So Inherent
Rainbow,
Vice.
Is that guy? Is that the same Gravity Rainbow or whatever? Gravity's Well. Pynchon. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Is he? I'm not sure.
Pynchon did some other famous book besides.
Pynchon did a lot of weird shit. Yeah. That's what he did. Either way, Pynchon. So Inherent Vice. So at the end of that movie, right, there's this sex scene between him and the girl that kind of starts this whole thing in the first place, his ex-girlfriend, right?
Oh, it is Gravity's Rainbow. Go on.
And it's just so fucking weird where, like, she takes her clothes off and he starts spanking her angrily.
No, like, it's not like that. It's more
but what I'm saying is, like, there are people who could watch that scene and be like, well, that's really hot. But we were watching it and we were just like, this is just weird. Like, and it's very much about where the characters are psychologically at that point.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe it plays more authentically to the actual audience who are lesbians or bisexual. That's very possible.
Okay.
Because the bodybuilder is bisexual. She says, I really don't care. I'll have sex with anybody. It doesn't matter. And then there's this whole sequence where at one point Kristen Stewart's like, okay, well, show me how you masturbate. And she's showing her and she's like, really? That's how you do it? Here, let me help you with this. And then like helps her improve her technique. And that's just a little sequence that happens. That's like, oh, okay. It's interesting.
It's an odd sequence in the movie, but okay.
Well, I almost feel like it's supposed to be that she's helping her. I don't know. It doesn't not make sense. It's just a very specific scene, and there are a couple like that. And that's in the first half of the film, which really feels like the relationship half. So it does feel like it's this thing where these are two people who are kind of outcasts and they find each other. And not only that, they start to kind of realize that they're kind of the perfect people for each other. And now they're kind of figuring each other out physically, emotionally, the whole thing. So it doesn't not make sense. It's just very specific. And that's really the first half of the film.
It's not done for just like exploitive effect.
No, I don't think so. It doesn't feel graphic or over the, I mean, it's graphic, but it doesn't feel, no, it's not like you see much and it's just enough to establish it and then it ends and it goes to the next scene. So no, it doesn't feel slimy. It feels like it was probably made conscientiously a specific way. Like I said, this may be one of those elements that plays to a different audience than it did for me. But I, at the same time, sort of understood, okay, this is what two people who maybe have never been with another person quite like this are figuring out. Like, I kind of get that. You know, there's that point in a relationship where you start going, okay, we're moving to a certain point. What is the other person actually like? And what are we doing here? That's kind of what I think it was supposed to be, was a physical representation of the deepening of the relationship. You know what I mean? So there's a couple things like that, but it really does feel like that's the first half of the movie. And then there's a point where, and this is where it shifts into the next thing, because Kristen Stewart just doesn't like to talk about her dad. She has these flashback sequences where you see Ed Harris shooting people and throwing them into a canyon. And so you understand something has happened there. They're not adversarial, but they're not on good terms. And then Kristen Stewart gets a call, and her sister is in the hospital because the husband has beaten her into basically a coma. And she's in the room, and she's having this breakdown, and the bodybuilder is there, and she sees her partner in pain, and she starts to kind of hulk out. Like, she starts breaking the chair, and you see her kind of flexing. And then she gets up, grabs the car keys, goes to the house where the ex-husband or the husband is, and smashes his head until the bottom of his jaw comes off and kills him. And that's when the movie suddenly changes. And it's like, okay, now something has happened. This is not just, grimy lesbian love in a gym. Now we've gotten to, murder, right? So Kristen Stewart, and you get the very clear sense that the steroids are making her rage out. Like, you are getting now, because Kristen Stewart shows up, sees what's happened, and said, how much steroid stuff are you, what are you taking? How much of this have you been taking? Because she had said, here's the dosage you need to take. And you see at one point the bodybuilder is like, well, I need to kind of accelerate this, and she takes a lot more. And of course, we know steroids can do this. Steroids can make a person
roid rage,
psychotic.
man, roid rage.
Well, that's what it feels like, because when Kristen Stewart shows up, the bodybuilder's in the tub, like, in shock. So, but she got very angry. I think that it was the reaction to seeing Kristen Stewart in pain that made her angry, and so she went to destroy the source of the anger. And she says, well, she says, well, you're welcome. This is what you said you wanted to do, because Kristen Stewart does say, I really would like to kill him for what he's done here. And so she acts on it. This is kind of a thing where it's like, well, you said, and I love you, therefore I'm doing what you couldn't do. And so they're like, okay, we have to cover this up. And Kristen Stewart says, well, I know a place to get rid of bodies. And so they take his car, they put him in it, they take him to the canyon where the bodies that her father were dumping, and you find out that she used to kill people for him and with him. So he kills people to maintain his, like, he's bribing cops. He's got some kind of business. It's smuggling weapons to Mexico, I think, among other things. And so she knows that this canyon is where bodies can go. And she says, we're going to put the car in there and blow it up. Someone will see the smoke. It's going to lead them to this canyon. They're going to look in there, and they're going to find that there's a lot more than him in there. And it's going to make them pin it on my father, because my father does love the daughters, at least until the very end. So there is this idea that they will naturally think that he got angry and killed the son-in-law. And when they find all the other bodies, they're going to be like, oh, this is a guy who has no problem killing people. So that's their plan. The problem is Ed Harris knows immediately what's going on. And so then there's a point where the Kristen Stewart says, okay, there's a way to do this because she's done it with her father. So she knows how to do this stuff. So she's like, the thing is, you can't go to Vegas. You have to stay out of the sight because they're going to look around at everybody who is around here. And you are an odd person out in this town. They are going to look at you. Plus, this weird, I don't know if she's a prostitute, but I think she's supposed to be, woman is really in love with Kristen Stewart and saw them driving the two cars, not only the guy's car, but also Kristen Stewart's truck, and made a note of it. And Kristen Stewart knows that she saw the two of them. She's like, we have to be very careful. And the bodybuilder is like, no, I'm going to Vegas. This is what I've been doing my whole thing for, was to get there and get this thing done. So I'm going. And she just goes. And she goes there. She gets into the competition. She gets on stage. She's doing all the flexing. Everything's going fine. And then she kind of flashes back to killing the guy. And she throws up on stage, which of course means that that's it. She's toast. And behind her, some of the other women who had already gone are laughing at her. And so she grabs one and starts beating the shit out of her. And of course, then the cops grab her and they arrest her. And she tries to call Kristen Stewart. But in between her leaving and this happening, the whatever weird woman who's in lust with Kristen Stewart kind of shows up and says, hey, it's funny, I saw you guys driving the other day. And clearly then you were in that guy's car. That's just a coincidence, right? And basically blackmails her into living with her and having sex with her. And so when she calls her, that woman picks up and says she has no interest in seeing you anymore and hangs up. But then she must then have called Ed Harris because he shows up and he's like, I bailed you out. Let's go. He's like, here's what's going to happen. You're going to kill the weird woman who's living with my daughter because she's the only one that can connect everybody to this. And now you're going to work for me. And so is Kristen Stewart. And so she's like, okay, she doesn't have a choice. So she shows up at Kristen Stewart's door, kills the other girl right in front of her, and then thinks that Kristen Stewart sold her out to her father. So she's about to kill her. And then she runs off, and Kristen Stewart calls her father and is like, what did you do? And he's like, I solved the problem that you created. Maybe you should know how to do this better. Next time, maybe plan it with me, and this would have all been avoided. And Kristen Stewart says, you know what? I'm fucking done with you. I'm going to tell the FBI or the cops or somebody what's going on here. And Ed Harris is like, you really don't want to do that? And she's like, I'm doing it. And so he's like, okay, hangs up, calls his on the take cop buddy and says, go kill my daughter because now she's crossed the line. Cop shows up, tries to kill her, fucks it up. Kristen Stewart manages to shoot him and then knock him out, but not kill him, which is important because I'm like, okay, is she going to kill him? Because now she's crossing the line. She just outright kills him, but doesn't. She shoots him in the shoulder. I mean, don't get me wrong. He might have bled out, but she doesn't specifically kill him, and then knocks him out, leaves, and finds out that Ed Harris has tied up the bodybuilder and is holding her hostage. And so she shows up at Ed Harris's place to rescue her, finds her, unties her. The bodybuilder is immediately suspicious. And Kristen Stewart's like, look, would I have come here if I was in it with him? I would have just told him to kill you, or I would have killed you. Why would I let you go? I love you. What are you doing? And so it kind of breaks through whatever, because there's still this roid rage thing going on for a while here. And so the bodybuilder realizes, okay, yes, I've had this all wrong. Ed Harris is kind of acting on his own. And Kristen Stewart says, okay, look, I've called the cops. They're coming here. You have to leave because if they find you here, you did shoot that girl. You will go away. If you leave now, I will take care of my father and I will come find you and we'll escape. We'll just go to California. We'll go somewhere else. And so she says, okay. And she's leaving. And this is when the movie now starts to go a little bit Lynchian in some of its stuff, or a little bit off the beaten path, because it's relatively grounded. There are those Hulk moments, but you could read them as just her perception of her body is that, and it's not really, because she doesn't suddenly become twice her size yet. She just kind of does that, and then she's like working out like a maniac. Like she's like, oh wow, this is working great. And the things where you're seeing the Hulk stuff, that's all close-ups, but it's not like she suddenly doubles in mass in the next scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's meant to be in her head. And
you're getting kind of the expression of what she's feeling.
Yeah, and then she's looking at certain people, their eyes get really big, because I think that's the roid rage thing where she's seeing things really weirdly. So she runs, and Kristen Stewart goes after her father, and Ed Harris sees her, shoots her in the leg. When she does that, the bodybuilder suddenly grabs her leg in pain, psychically, out in the desert. And then Ed Harris kind of knocks Kristen Stewart down, and he's like digging his thumb into the bullet hole, like to torture her. And the bodybuilder is like writhing in pain. And so she takes out the steroid kit, like fills the needle.
Oh no.
Jabs herself. And then she grows 50 feet tall. Comes back, grabs Ed Harris, who looks like a doll, in her hand. And Kristen Stewart's looking at her as a giant. And she pins Ed Harris down and says, okay, go ahead and kill him. And she's sitting there like the Hulk. No, not like the Hulk, like Giant Man. She's giant in the driveway. And this is, as far as I can tell, Kristen Stewart is, because she's looking up at her.
So it's a metaphor, though. I mean, it's
sure.
got to be what it is. Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yes, I think but
visually,
the movie is showing
yes.
you this is happening. Because it's not like Kristen Stewart looks at her and she's just got him pinned down normally. She's sitting there as a giant. Her crotch is the size of a house. So it's like she's just sitting there. Well, because you see it, because Ed Harris is pinned in front of it. So you see it. She's not nude. She has the bodybuilding. That's the best part, is when she hulks out, her clothes all rip, but kind of like the Hulk with the purple pants. She just has her bodybuilding bikini on, which is fantastic. It's hilarious.
So weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. And so Kristen Stewart puts the gun into his mouth and says, see you later, Dad. Doesn't shoot him because the cops show up. And the next thing you then see, and this is where you're right, it's got to be metaphors, you see the bodybuilder and Kristen Stewart, both giants, running through the clouds as they run away. And so the cops show up, they get Ed Harris, and then you see it cuts, and I thought that was going to be the end of the movie. And then it cuts to them driving, and now they're normal sized in the truck driving, and they have the dead woman in the back of the truck because they forgot to take her out, and she starts moving around. And Kristen Stewart looks over, and the bodybuilder's asleep, and she's like, okay. And she pulls over, bodybuilder doesn't wake up, and she goes to the back, and she opens the tailgate, and she unwraps what they have her in, which is basically a carpet. And the girl is alive, and Kristen Stewart looks at her and then chokes her to death and kills her. And then the next thing you see is you see the bodybuilder still asleep, but you can see through the window. So you're seeing through the window to like the desert beyond. So they're probably somewhere in the Nevada desert or maybe the California desert somewhere where there's nothing. And you see Kristen Stewart dragging the body out into the desert and just looking exasperated. And then the credits start to come up, and then the movie just fades to black. So you don't really know what happens after that, but I have to imagine she was burying the body or getting rid of it because she knows how.
Hopefully they get to be together and they drive off into the sunset.
That's the idea, and that's the movie. So it's great. It's very, very stylized. Like, it's a very specifically made film. Like I said, I didn't even capture audio because the dialogue is just about unimportant, because a lot of the movie functions on the scenes and the angles and looks people give each other and what they're doing as opposed to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So I could have clipped some things, but it really just would have been nothing that would have added much to what I just told you. But it's a great movie. It's about hour and 40 something minutes, so not too long. It's 104 minutes. So what's that? That's hour 44. Okay. It's great.
Hold on. I found the scene where she... Oh my God!
Giant?
Yes, yeah, she's a giant.
Right? I told you, I'm not exaggerating. She's giant. She's like the 50-foot woman,
God.
Right? So you're watching.
Yeah, she's huge.
Yeah.
I was just curious what it looked like. Yeah,
that's what it looked. It looks great. I mean, that's what I'm saying is they play it straight because she's pinned. Do you see where she's holding Ed Harris like an animatronic doll? It's great. Yeah. But this is the only scene in the movie where that happens. Like I said,
this is like a sleeper She-Hulk movie.
Right. That's why I said she's like the Hulk. Yeah. And she looks like She-Hulk. This is who they should have gotten to play She-Hulk. Why the hell did they do that CG crap? They should have just gotten this woman to do it and just made her a little bit bigger. Like, just zoomed in on her or zoomed her in, whatever. But the movie's fantastic. Like, I started watching it really late, and I was like, all right, I'll probably watch half of this and then finish it tomorrow. And no, I went through the whole thing because I was riveted. Because the trailer did not set me up for this. I thought the trailer was making it look artier than it was. No. But
you thought it was going to be the first half of the movie all the way through.
Right. And that would have been fine because the first half is, comparing it to Bound, is very, very... This and Bound would be a perfect double feature. Perfect. You can watch them in either order. It doesn't matter. Because there are these big parallels between them. Which I don't think is one ripping off the other. I think it's the idea that this is a this could very well be a variation on the Bound idea. Like the director may have watched Bound and said, yeah, I know how I would make this a similar thing. I don't really know what the genesis of is it saying? Let's see. Second film. Does it say anything about who wrote it? Who wrote this thing? It was written by the director and another, I don't know. That name is very specific. Weronika Talivska. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. But it was shot in New Mexico, which, okay, so it was a shot on, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I mean,
I liked it a lot.
It
was
sounds
good.
like an A24 film.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's artsy enough that it doesn't just feel like a standard approach to a film. Like it has those flourishes to it. It's not Lynchian artsy except when she turns into a giant, but that only happens at the end. And the only bad thing about that, and I don't even know if I want to call it a bad thing, is because there's nothing really similar to that through the rest of the movie, it does kind of throw you a bit. Not to a point where you're like, this doesn't make sense, but it's just like, whoa, okay. The rest of it seemed very much just kind of a perception warp, but the way it's presented there, I obviously it is a metaphor, but you could think it's supposed to be literal, that she just became a giant because she shot the whole needle into herself or something.
Right, so but she feels like she's a giant.
Right. But I think that it would have been, I would have liked to have seen that happen. And now that I think about it, when she's in the apartment with the guy that she kills, the way they shoot it, she does look bigger, but I thought it was just a camera angle, but maybe they were slightly making her larger because they shoot it low up at her and the guy's laying on the ground. So of course she's towering over him, but maybe they were making her bigger and that was supposed to be the first clue and it was just more subtle. So that's possible. Cause when I was looking, I was like, wow, she looks huge in this scene, but I don't know whether they were actually making her bigger or it was because of the angle and the fact that she's fucking ripped. You know, it's like, it's hard to say. Regardless, if you were at all interested based on the trailer, watch it. It's great.
It looks like a way weird ride.
It's got a very distinct personality, which I think is great because reading it, I thought of Bound. Then I saw comparisons and I went, is this just going to seem like it's a lesser version of Bound, which is a very specific type of movie. I love Bound. I love Bound because Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon in it. I'll watch that anytime. But so I was like, is this just going to be somebody trying to make an arty version of that? And it's just going to feel like kind of a lesser. But no, because it has this, I think because they set it in 89 and they play the aesthetics of that time without making it a nostalgia film. It doesn't feel like that where they're like Stranger Thingsing it. It feels like they're just using that as a way to simplify elements and take complications out, which is fine. That's how it should be. If you're using an era because it serves the narrative as opposed to just, look, it's big hair. You know, the thing you thought, which is what I was actually expecting, never happens. There is never big poofy hair. There's never like Don Johnson outfits. It's not that. It's just the fact that there are no cell phones. There's no internet. So that makes it where, you know, when the cops are trying to figure things out, they can't just go search a database. You know what I mean? It makes things take longer so that things can happen. It gives this air of atmosphere to it and delay that feels natural and not weirdly artificial. Yeah. Because if this woman comes into town, Ed Harris goes onto the internet and searches her name and finds her immediately and goes, oh, okay, I've got something on this woman. It's that kind of thing where that isn't present here. It's everybody making phone calls and having to look through paper records, which takes forever. So, and there are parts where somebody tries to call somebody like the phone's off the hook or busy or whatever. And again, with cell phones, that doesn't happen anymore. So this movie couldn't function the same way were it not set when it is. But it's not just, you know, somebody having a giant New Kids on the Block poster in their bedroom or something. You're like, hey, 80s, you know, whatever, stuff like that. Or, you know, MC Hammer shit or Miami Vice. Like, it's not that. It's more of this allows us to have constraints that make sense in the time period as opposed to, oh no, for some reason in this town. So it's like, yeah, you know, the only bad thing about this town, cell phone service, just always shitty. What are you going to do? You know, it's not one of those things. So I really liked it. And I just realized that the city sounds have faded off and I forgot to restart them. So sorry about that. But,
you were
great,
engaged.
Great
that's why
I was engaged in recanting this because I really was pleasantly surprised by the movie. Not for everybody, but also this woman is ripped. So if you want to see a movie where a woman's physique is on feature, this is for you. Because, man, she aptly shows off a body that she should be showing off because, man, she's in great shape. And when she is throwing people around, it never seems unnatural because she could probably punch through a wall. So, but also there's the arty side of it. And it is kind of a two-sided movie where there's the relationship bit where they are seeding elements that you know will come into play later. So that the part where it becomes kind of a crime thriller or whatever you want to call that. It's not out of nowhere. It is set up. But once she kills that guy, then it starts to veer like way into that as opposed to, well, there's clearly some background tomfoolery here that may become a problem later. No, it becomes, oh, she just killed the son-in-law to a crime lord in town who basically controls the town. This is now a serious issue that we're going to have to address.
It feels like an old Nick Cage movie, doesn't it?
I could easily see Nick Cage playing the Ed Harris role. Yeah. Or the main guy, I guess. But,
yeah. Or, you know what? I think, who was it? There was a movie I saw. Yeah, I think it was Nick Cage and Dennis Hopper.
Or like True Romance. It also kind of reminded me of True Romance a little bit.
Dennis Hopper is playing the Ed Harris role. And then someone comes to town. I think it was Nick Cage. But yeah, you get a lot of these. You know, it's that whole, isolated town kind of out in nowhere world. You know, it's almost its own place.
Well, yeah, and the foundational narrative is not something that's brand new.
Roadhouse, the original Roadhouse is like that. It's almost this weird microcosm of the world.
And that's where I think the benefit of it being an artier film and it doing a couple things differently is it refreshes this formulaic thing because the basics of it they've been done before. There's nothing in here that's new as far as, romance, there's a complication, bad guy, all that stuff is the same. But when you make it...
But you're left questioning, are you seeing, is it supposed to be real or are you seeing something that is the metaphor for what the bodybuilder feels like is happening to her?
Yeah, the quote unquote gimmick is the bodybuilder, right? But instead of just playing that overly and making it kind of an overt gimmick, it's naturally integrated as something interesting where she stands out without being, and even the way they treat their relationship together, that isn't even a thing, which is, I was kind of waiting for that to be that Ed Harris disapproved of his daughter being a lesbian and that's why they were on the outs. No, because at one point the bodybuilder says, he doesn't like you dating women. She's like, no, he couldn't give a shit less about that. He just wants to use me to help his crimes. So it's more of, no, that's not his concern. And he does actually care about his daughters until they begin to interfere with his business. So even that makes Ed Harris he's very interesting in this movie. He doesn't have a ton to do, but
apparently he got the hair extensions as a joke.
Oh my God, he looks so good.
And the director was like, "No, keep them."
He has such a specific look, and it just makes him stand out. He's really good in this in a smaller role until the very end. But you immediately recognize, okay, this is not a guy to be fucked with. But again, he's not just a mustache twirling villain. Like nobody is painted in simple colors. That's what makes it stand out. And the movie's aesthetic itself, again, it's set in the 80s. I know what's going to be happening. No, you don't, because they're not going to go the simple route. They're going to do everything with nuance to it. And then what they're going to do is bathe it in this atmosphere that tells you when it is without ever coming out and say, like, there's not a title card that says up New Mexico, 1989. There's none of that bullshit like that. Or again, somebody showing up with a white jacket, no shirt and loafers is like, hey man, let's go drive my Testarossa. Like that, there's none of that horse shit. And don't get me wrong, I love that horse shit, but that's why I watch Miami Vice. That's not this. So I like the fact that, there is never the big hair moment or anything like that. It's more of just...
I love that horse shit. No, that says it all.
I do. So I would recommend it. I'm not going to necessarily tell everybody they should run out and pay $20 for it. I did. I'm not sorry I did.
I have found that you are never let down by an A24 movie. You will get something weird, something interesting. Something will happen.
I've never hated one. So that's
no. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to see what the most recent list of A24 movies is.
Oh, I reviewed The Green Knight. That was A24, I believe.
Oh man, yeah.
But
I mean, they have
another one coming up that I'm very interested in. What a surprise! Let's see, A24.
They did Lady Bird, which is a good movie. They did Moonlight, which has got a lot of acclaim.
Ex Machina.
Oh, geez, yeah, they did.
Civil War.
They're doing the new Amy Winehouse movie, which I didn't know they were doing, but now I'm curious to see it because A24 is doing it.
What was
and that's the thing is like when I hear A24 is doing a movie, I am suddenly more curious now than I would have been otherwise.
Yeah, The Lighthouse. There you go. I talked about The Lighthouse.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see. There's one
Everything Everywhere
All
at Once is an A24. Yeah. There you go.
What's the one? There's one coming up that I was actually very interested. Oh, Men. I got to watch Men too. That's supposed to be good. What was the one?
Oh, they did Slow West. Oh shit! Now I have to see that movie. That's a weird Western movie done with Michael Fassbender.
Let's see. What's the one I'm thinking of that's coming up? Upcoming. Here we go. No. I can't find it now. Oh, Spike Lee is remaking High and Low. I am fascinated about what that's going to be like. Because that's an Akira Kurosawa film. So I
know. So I'm curious. And he's doing it with Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah, which I'm interested because High and Low is one of the ones that I think Spike Lee could do something interesting with. Oh, I saw the TV Glow. I want to see that too. I keep reading really good stuff about that one.
Now, who is the studio? Is it Sony Picture Classics? That's the other one that does weird movies.
Yeah, that's their kind of independent and artsy-fartsy.
So if I see something as a Sony Picture Classic or an A24, then I'm usually interested because I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's the angle on this?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of stuff that they've done that has been interesting or I still want to see. Oh, they did The Witch, which was a Robert Eggers. That's the Lighthouse guy. That was really good. The Lobster. I haven't seen that one, but I've read what it is. It's like, okay.
I've read about that, yeah.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff that I'd like to watch, but I don't think I could handle sitting there for a whole weekend watching their movies.
No, most of them are
challenging. Yes, you need to clear your head afterwards for a little bit.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking at the list of Hereditary, where you see a young girl get her head fucking bashed off by a electrical pole or a telephone pole. That's a good one. You can watch it degrade over the course of the movie. Yeah, that's not one you show the whole family. Let's see. Is there anything on their list that I would call easy watching?
No.
God, no, there really isn't. I can't find one in here that No,
that
none
studio
of these.
is not about easy watching. That studio is about challenging you.
Wow, boy, you are not kidding.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you told me it was A24, I was like, oh, this is going to be a ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing in here would I say is easy to watch. Nothing. Maybe The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I've read that one is a more straightforward one. I haven't seen it, though, so I can't speak from direct experience. Certainly not The Iron Claw.
Oh, they did Midsommar.
Midsommar,
which is a weird horror movie.
Yeah.
They did Locke, which is Tom Hardy in a car.
Yeah.
And yeah, just looking through, there's none of these are light films.
That X, Pearl, and Maxine about that killer who lives across different time periods. I have to get to that one at some point, but yeah.
Oh, Under the Skin with.
And supposedly they're doing Death Stranding. They've got that one in development.
Who's A24?
A24 is going to do Death Stranding the film.
You know what? Just end it there.
That's it.
That's
the one.
Everything you need to know about A24.
Yep. That's the one I was thinking of. That yes, they're going to do Death Stranding.
Oh man, that's going to be interesting.
Yep. Did you see, by the way, that as a final thing, George Miller said that he thinks Hideo Kojima should do a Mad Max game? Could you imagine? I mean, I'll play it, but I mean, then he's just basically making his own movie.
Oh God, if he did, that'd be fantastic cutscenes.
No doubt about it. So they're friends now because he's in the next Death Stranding. George Miller is a character now, which is great.
Oh, is he?
Well, I mean, put Guillermo del Toro in the first one. He just liked, and he put Nicholas Winding Refn in the first one. He likes directors in his stuff, so that's fine.
That's funny.
He picks good people, so what do I care? But yeah, now they're palsy, so yeah.
Well, anyway. It takes a lot to make a game, so we'll see.
It does. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing where it's like Kojima probably only has maybe 2 games left.
It's a race now to see who watches Furiosa first.
Well, I mean, once it's available on digital, I'll watch it. I'm not going to the theater.
Yeah.
So. We'll probably watch it at the same time.
I've read nothing but good reviews.
Yes, I've read pretty much universally good stuff. And I am interested in the fact that I'm glad he didn't try to repeat from everything I've read. He did not try to do Fury Road again. He really wanted to flesh out the world.
But what I do find interesting is that actress, is it Anna Taylor-Joy?
Anna Taylor-Joy.
She is strange looking. Have you ever seen just like her normal?
Yeah. Yeah, she looks like an alien, kind of.
She does, doesn't she? It's like a weird sort of
it's not bad. It's distinct. Like, it's distinctive.
Oh, she's very distinct. Yes, I mean, isn't she famous for a show like Killing Eve or something like that? Is that her?
Sure. I don't know. I never watched it. Let's see. Oh God, boy, did I mispronounce her name or mistype her name. She is famous for.
Yeah, is it Anya Taylor-Joy?
It's Anya. Well, yeah, it's Anya. Anya.
Oh, the Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit.
Oh, that's it. And she voiced one of the Dark Crystal shows. Okay, well, I wouldn't know her from that, but.
And she was in the New Mutants. She was Magic in the New Mutants. She's a great Magic. I mean, she looks perfect for that role. I wish that movie had been better. She does, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, the funny part is, now that I look at this, I don't think I've seen a single thing she's in. Oh, The Witch. I'm sorry, she was in The Witch. Yes, that's right. Of course. That's the only thing I've never seen her in. I never saw Split.
She voiced Princess Peach. No, you saw Dune Part 2, didn't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I saw Part 1. I'll get to it, but I don't.
She's the Emperor's daughter, which kind of makes sense. She's kind of got a weird look to her.
Yeah, I'll watch it eventually, but I'm not in a rush because I don't remember the first one, so I'm gonna have to rewatch that, which means I gotta spend like 6 hours watching these movies, and I'm just not. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I'll watch it eventually. So on that note, Dune Tart Poo.
Did you just get word salad?
Dune Tart Poo, notwithstanding, is where I was going. Except I, of course, didn't invert the words. I would definitely recommend, if you were at all intrigued by the trailer for Love Lies Bleeding, watch it. It's a very interesting time.
We've given you lots of weird tonight. Go read about Space Romans, then go watch Love Lies Bleeding.
Yep. Go watch a ghost screw horns into his head. Sure, why not? It's not a bad time.
No, honestly, listen. Kids, the indictment here is that of all this shit, the Ghostbusters movie is the most tame.
The least interesting.
No, there's that, but it's the most tame of them all.
Right.
Which is literally a movie about people chasing poltergeist, right?
Right.
But I mean, Space Romans is definitely weirder than that, and anything by A24 blows Ghostbusters out of the ground.
That's true.
Out of the water,
That's true. So.
On
that note, everybody, whatever you choose to watch or read or indulge in, do it safely and enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.